Okay, just will have a brief introduction about operating system. What is an operating system, and what are the various topics that we are going to cover for this syllabus, and how we are going to deal. What is the procedure that we are going to deal? That's what we are going to cover for the today's session. So we'll see the syllabus, followed by a very short introduction about the topic. Okay, coming to the syllabus point of view, operating system is computer science paper 6. So this semester you are going to have two papers, paper 5 and paper 6. So paper 5 is going to be Java, programming in Java, and paper 6 is going to be operating system. And both the subjects are going to have 3 units, unit 1, unit 2 and unit 3. So first we'll see what is this unit 1. In unit 1 we are going to have the topics like introduction to operating system structure, process management, and process synchronization. So here we'll have just an overview of how the operating system is going to be. And we are going to see something related to operating system architecture. What is the environment we are going to work on with? And coming to the next topic, when we come to the operating system structures, here we are going to have some topics related to various services that we are going to use in operating system, the user interfaces, system calls, type of system calls, and all related things we are going to study in operating system structure. And when we come to the next topic, process management. In process management, we are going to study mainly about the concepts like how the process is going to work. Process is nothing but just let us assume that a task to be done. For example, suppose if I want to open a file, if I want to see a video, if I want to hear some audio, or if I want to listen to some song, how this is going to be processed? What is the management? How it is going to manage the things? Then how the process is going to schedule the things? Every process has to be scheduled. Without scheduling, it cannot be proceeded. Then what are the various operations that this process is going to have, followed by inter-process communications and examples of procedure consumer problems. Then coming to the next topic, process synchronization. Though both are related, management and synchronization, here we are going to study something related to critical section problems. Here we are going to have some solutions for the problems. What are the problems which are going to come, and how to uh, go on with the solutions, like Peter solutions, synchronization, semaphore, monitors, all these things we are going to study in process synchronization. So this is what we are going to study in unit 1. Then next, coming to the second unit, here we are going to study mainly two topics, CPU scheduling and deadlocks. So when we come to the concept of CPU scheduling, here we have something like scheduling algorithms. Suppose if two or three works are given to a CPU, how it is going to schedule the things, how the algorithms are formed to schedule the things. Then the next topic is one of the important topic related to any computer terminologies, deadlocks. Simple example I can tell you for deadlocks is suppose there's a traffic jam on the road. So what is happening over there is, in a traffic jam, all the people are coming from different ways and they are getting blocked in a junction or in a circle, and nobody is able to proceed further. Same thing when more than one works or one task has been done by a computer. What happens is a computer will not be able to resolve the things. Which one to do first, which one to do later, and all are getting stuck over there. That is what we can call in simple terms as deadlock. So here we are going to study what are the various characterizations of deadlock and what are the methods to handle these deadlocks, how to come out of these deadlocks, and we have a few important things like deadlock preventions, deadlock avoidance, and deadlock detections. Then one important thing is if any deadlock has occurred, how to recover from deadlock. So these are the topics that we are going to study in Unit 2. Okay, the last unit, Unit 3. Here we are going to have the topics of main memory, virtual memory, and file system. So your main memory is, suppose if we take a computer memory is divided into various regions like main memory, secondary memory, all various things, primary memory. There are various kinds of classifications. But when we come to something like main memory is a place where it will be used for storage. So what type of data can be stored here? How the data is going to be done? The memory is going to be allocated? What are the various segments and how the paging is going to be done in the memory? Similarly, when we come to something like virtual memory, virtual, as the name says, virtual is for what we can say is something like which is temporary, we can call in simple terms. So here we are going to study something like demand paging, page replacements, algorithms, allocations, how the memory is going to be allocated, and all those things. Then coming to the storage, file systems, input and output file systems. Here, when a file, how to access a file, how the disk is going to access the file, what are the various things, what are the various protection mechanisms and file systems, how they are going to be implemented, how the directories are going to be implemented, allocation methods, and the storage, free space management. All these things we are going to study in file system concepts. So this is what we are going to study all about in Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. Okay, next is the books. Coming to the prescribed book for the syllabus by the university point of view, the book is going to be Operating System Concepts, and the author is going to be Abraham Silber Sketch, Peter Bear Galvin, Gray Gagne. This is a prescribed book by the university, and other reference books suggested by university are Principles of Operating System by Naresh Chauhan, then Operating System in Depth by Thomas W. Diopner. Next one is Modern Operating System by Andrew S. Tenenbaum. Then Operating System Internal and Design Principles by William Stalling. Then Operating System A Concept-Based Approach by Dhananjay M. Dandiri. So these are the books which are prescribed by university. You can refer any of the books. And the very first book by Peter Galvin and Abraham Skilberg Sketch is a prescribed book by the university. Okay, as I've said, I'm going to give a short introduction about the subject for the day. So today we'll see some basic concepts like what is an operating system, what are the various functions of an operating system, and goals of an operating system. So first we'll start with what is an operating system. Okay, then coming to the first topic, what is operating system? As soon as the word operating system is heard, most of us will get used to one famous operating system called Android, which we use in our mobiles every day, or iOS, which we use in Apple devices. But what is this exactly? What is the purpose? Why we have to use operating system? Just coming to something like a Definition of a book. Operating system says it is an interface between a user and a hardware device. Simple example that I can give you. Everybody are using mobiles, right? So mobile can be called as an hardware device, and you are holding the mobile in your hand, which means you are the user. The person who is using the mobile is a user. The person, and the device is a hardware. Now, if you want to use this mobile, what you are doing first? Simple example. Suppose we'll come to one interesting topic for you people here. Most of us are, not me. Most of you people will be playing some important game called as PUBG, right? And excited everybody is. So what is this? How this PUBG game is working? Now, just imagine. Suppose there is no Android in your mobile, but you want to use or you want to play PUBG game. Will you be able to use it? Definitely not. So the mobile must have something like Android, and on this you must have the games installed or the applications, whatever you want apps. So if we come to the term, operating system is a system software. Once again, a definition of the book. So if we come back to this point, I'll come back to this point. What are the different types of softwares? Mainly we have two things. One is application software, and next one is something called as system software. So when we come to this application software, your most famous game PUBG comes here. In fact, other applications like MS Office, WhatsApp, Facebook, all XYZ apps comes under something called as application softwares. And coming to something like system software, your very famous Android, Windows, all this comes under a classification something called as system softwares. Just we'll see what is the main difference between this application software and system software. One thing I can tell you is system software is a base on which any application software works. Simple example, PUBG runs on Android device or iOS device. Without Android or iOS, will PUBG work? Definitely not, I believe. So PUBG depends on an operating system, that is any application that you want to run depends on an operating system. So coming to the statement, operating system is a system software, and system software provides a platform to run application software. I hope I'm clear with this point. Okay, so coming to the next slide, user and hardware. So user is what we can call it user as a we, and hardware is mobile. So when we come to this mobile and hardware or whatever it may be, why we require a mediator? We'll forget about mobiles for time being. Just take any of the electronic devices, for instance something like fan. Is fan having an operating system? Suppose if we give a power supply to the fan, is it not running? Yes, it is running. Is it loading any operating system? Definitely, I don't believe. But why we require this operating system? So when if suppose if we come to the instance of a fan, the user is directly able to interact with the hardware. That is, when we put the switch on, the fan is working without any operating system. But when we come to electronic devices, we require an operating system. Just we have a classification about electrical and electronic devices. Electrical devices does not require, whereas electronic devices require an operating system. That is, what is this role of an operating system on this electronic devices? So, whatever the hardware components are there, that is CPU, mouse, keyboard, X, Y, Z, all these components, are they having any life? Can they work? Suppose if I say keyboard, type the alphabet L, is it typing? No. Why? Because it don't have life. Suppose if I say the same thing to one of the student, go and bring a notebook. Will you not bring the notebook? Did I give any further instructions? No. But you are able to, because you people are having life and you are able to listen to me and do whatever work I am saying. You are able to understand. But when we come to this hardware components, they don't have life. They cannot work by themselves. They are robots. So in order to make this devices active, in order to make this hardware devices active, what we have to do is we need a program in between. We need a program to make this hardware devices active, to make this hardware devices to work. That program which is making the hardware devices to work is what we call as operating system. That is, if you take a mobile, suppose if I switch off a mobile, is it working? No, it does not work. But if I switch it on, it is loading the operating system Android. Then I am able to work on the mobile. That is, the duty of this operating system is it is making the mobile active. I hope everybody have got my point. Operating system is making the hardware components to work. Without operating system, keyboard will not work, mobile will not work, and thing will not work. If mobile is not working, PUBG also will not work. I hope I am clear with this point also. Okay, now let us see functions of operating system. So we have I've listed a few of the important functions. These are not the all the functions that we have. There are just a few important things that we have. First one is resource manager, memory management, input output management, storage management, and security. Just we'll have an overview of all these things. First of all, what is this resource manager? What is the resource according to the computer or according to the mobile? If we take this instance, every work that is done, everything that is being done by a mobile or a computer is what we can call it as a resource. Like for example, if you have installed an app like a PUBG or any audio players or music players, YouTube, Google, Gmail. So whenever I want to open all these things, I can open multiple applications at a time. There is nothing like I can open a single application. I can open multiple applications at a time. I can open PUBG and I can play some songs in the background, or I can open my mail. I can do various things. So all these things are what which are going to be managed. These things are going to be managed. Like for example, suppose if we take a simple example, I'm playing a PUBG. So how long I'm going to play this game? How much memory is required? So if we take that instance, suppose if we come to the memory management. Suppose a PUBG is going to occupy some roughly around 10 MB, and audio songs are going to occupy 15 MB, and my if I open a mail is going to occupy 10 MB. So all this memory, how much memory is going to be occupied at a time? It has to be divided. This memory, suppose I am playing PUBG game. This 15 MB is going to be occupied for how much time? 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 hours, 10 hours. How much time you are going to play the games? Until you die, until you get chicken biryani, right? Yeah, that's right. So how much time this memory is going to be occupied? These things are going to be managed. That is what we call it as resource manager. And the memory, when it is going to be managed, then it is called as memory management. In memory management, actually, when we come to this, we have something like a CPU. Suppose if we take the hardware components, how much memory is going to be occupied for PUBG, how much memory is going to be occupied, how much for next tab, how much memory for the next tab, how much memory for the next tab. This all things are going to be arranged in a process order, in the order of a process, like first program, second program, third program, fourth program. So first, what game is going to be played, or what program is going to be executed? Second, what program is going to be executed? Then third, what program is going to be executed? So the order that is going to be maintained, okay, that is one after the other, the programs are going to be executed. This order is what we call as CPU scheduling. That is how the CPU is going to work. First, which program it is going to execute. First, next, which program is going to execute. Then next, which program is going to be executed by CPU. So CPU is going to put a scheduling for all these things, which is called as process management. So as this complete thing we are going to study as a complete separate chapter. And when we come to the next one, like process management, there's going to be a complete separate chapter. Memory management is going to be a separate chapter for us. All these things, each and every function of an operating system, most of the things we are going to study as a separate chapters. Then when we come to this process, so in order to run this process, if a process has to be executed, it has to occupy some memory which is going to be managed. Now when we come to this memory, we have various kinds of memory, as I have said. We are going to have something like main memory, secondary memory, virtual memory, all memories, all types of memories. Now, when a program has to be executed, it has to be executed only from main memory. Remember this point. The program or the application can be executed only from a main memory. So when the program is executed, how much memory is going to be occupied for this main memory? Because when we come to this main memory concept, memory will have a restriction, will have a limitations. It cannot handle all the programs at a time, so it will divide the memory into different programs, different apps. For different apps, this memory is going to be divided. So how much memory is going to be occupied for first program, how much memory is going to be occupied for second program. The programs which are in running are only going to be there in the main memory. Once the program has completed its task, it is going to be swapped out of the main memory. So all these things are what we call as memory managements. And simple example I can tell you is, suppose if I have written a program, if I have written a program in C language or C++, what happens? This program has to be executed. So first we need to compile the program. So what we are doing when we are compiling this program has to be executed. So when this program has to be executed, the program has to go to main memory, occupy a certain memory there, and execute. Once the program execution is completed, it will be swapped out of the main memory. That is how the main memory is going to work. Then next concepts that we are going to have is input output management. That is input output devices like keyboard, mouse, printers, and all these things. How the keyboard is going to work, how the mouse is going to work. Suppose if we take a printer, how the printer is going to be connected to the device, how the monitor is going to be connected. Simple example I can give you is, if we take a printer, we'll be having only one printer, but it will be connected to many systems at a time. So how these connections are going to be done? All these things are what we call as input output management. Then next concept that we are going to have is storage management, that is files. Which file is going to be stored at which place, how the directories are going to work, how inside a directory how to create, how the files are being saved. All these things comes under storage management. Then coming to the next one, we have something like security. Security in the sense every mobile will have a pattern or a number locking. Without that, can we open a file? Impossible. So that is what is the security provided by the operating system. Without a password, we cannot open the files, we cannot read the files, we cannot read the data. That is what is going to be done. And one more simple example I can tell you. Suppose we have opened 5 different applications in a mobile. I have opened something like audio player, I have opened a mail account, I have opened one of the games, important games for us, and I'm open the online platform also. So here what is happening, the mail which I've opened a mail and the mail is been read. Is the mail, whatever I'm going to read, is been displayed in the PUBG game? No. Whatever mails I have opened, it is opening only in the mail app only. And whatever the PUBG I'm playing, it has been done only in the PUBG game. Are both getting overlapped or interchanged? No. That is, the work of the PUBG is going to be separate, the work of this. So here we can classify something like a processor. The process of PUBG is different, the process of mail is different, the process of online application is different, and the process of WhatsApp is different, the process of Facebook is going to be different. The WhatsApp information is going to be open in WhatsApp only, not in Facebook. So that is the security provided by the operating system. That is, every app is going to do its own work. They are not going to overlap or they are not going to interchange with each other. So this kind of security is what we call it as security management. So the next topic is goals of operating system. Here we are going to have two things: convenience and efficiency. What is this convenience? For example, if we take simple thing, most of the people are using mobiles and they are able to operate the mobiles. If it is a smartphone or any other things also, any person who is uneducated, who is illiterate, is also able to operate a smartphone. What is the reason behind this? Because it is convenient. It has been user friendly. In fact, we can say it is easy to use. So most of the mobiles which are going to be used by illiterates are user friendly. Not only for them, any person can use a mobile. Even same instance if we come to a laptop or a system. Any person who is not having a much idea can work on Windows. That is, Windows is very easy to use operating system. There is a convenience. There is a convenience level. That is, if you take a system or a desktop, Windows is used by majority of the people. Whereas if we come to mobiles, and as we I know, Android or iOS are the operating systems which are very convenient and very easy to use. That is, anybody is able to use it. And next point, if we take efficiency, here when we come to something like efficiency, the we can talk about somebody like professionals. Even professionals are also able to use same Android or iOS operating system which is used by illiterates. The reason behind this is, for experts also it is giving high level of proficiency, and for people who have normal use also it is able to be convenient. That is, these operating systems are supporting high level professional people as well as a normal low level person. That is why the operating systems are very user friendly. So these are the goals of operating system. Fine. So in the for the next class, we are going to see something like what are the various types of operating system.